Hello and welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Today I'm your host Sam and I welcome to each one of you in our show with wholeheartedly. Let me tell you that we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn and Facebook and hopefully on Twitter as well. So before jumping into today's topic and welcoming our guests, let's go through an important disclaimer. That is, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. So use of information is at your own risk. Once again, welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm your host, Sam. And today we are diving into the most important immigration topic, that is the H-1B gap and humanitarian parole, how it can benefit individuals outside the US. So we'll explore what these are, how they work, and most importantly, how humanitarian parole can benefit the individuals outside the US and more. So it's time to meet our today's honorable guest, who is none other than Uma Mantravadi. Welcome, Uma. It's so great to have you today with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Sam. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and welcome to the team.
Yeah, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. And let me tell you that this color really suits you and you're looking very pretty.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, Uma, so it's a very cheerful start that we are going to have today. So guys, let me tell you about Miss Mantravadi is one of the finest attorney and is highly respected in the field of immigration law. And she's actually personally involved in every case that she receives. So it's a great opportunity to all of you to contact Uma on the given number. That is 713-787-5297. You can also visit her website at www.mantralaw.com. And you can also email her on uma@mantralaw.com. So before starting our lively discussion, let me remind you all that we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and on Facebook. So guys, if you have any questions, then please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll answer them live. So keep asking questions, attend our show till the end. It will be really great of you. And do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. So let's begin with our very first question. That is, USCIS selects 14,534 H-1B registrations in second round lottery for fiscal year 2025. So I need to know that what are your views that should we expect the third lottery as well or not?
Good question, Sam, but I'm not sure, if they will complete the quota of the 65,000, which they were not able to complete in the first round. So if the selected beneficiaries and the employers go forward with the filing of these 14,534 beneficiaries, I don't think they'll announce a third one. But should the employers not decide to go forward, because this is an employment-based petition, and if the employers feel like, we don't need this person anymore, even though we've got this selection in the second round, then possibly there can be a third round. So it all depends.
Okay, that's a great one. At least let's see what happens and let's hope for the best. Whatever happens, happens for the best. Okay.
And let me say something. Nobody was expecting the second lottery either, but that did come through because, again, a lot of employers didn't go through and file during the first process, which ended on June 30th. A lot of employers, even I know some of my clients who didn't file their H-1s because they felt they didn't need that person, or the project got canceled. Many things can happen. And if something like that happens and the employer decides, I'm not going to file this H-1, then there could be a round three.
Okay, let's see what happens. And after all, yeah, correct. Nobody was expecting second round lottery. But let's see what happens. Okay, so moving ahead with our next question, Uma, what is the H-1B cap for fiscal year 2025 and how does it compare to previous year?
Well, last year we had, they see the cap, then when they announce, they're announcing it for the year ahead because the quota begins on October 1st of that year. So the quota is typically for 2025 in 2024. So for the 2024, which was filed in 2023, they had almost 800,000 applications. And this year it did go down, Sam, because a lot of people were concerned about duplicate filings, and there were a lot of revocations of the H-1B last year, and a lot of it impacted the beneficiaries because it either put them out of status. If they couldn't go into a student status immediately, they had to go back to their home country, or they were impacted with that. So a lot of people didn't want to go through this process, if there was, and so a lot of employers this year didn't do a lot of duplicate filings, which is good.
Yeah.
So they're not hurting their employees.
Okay, that's informative, and I think viewers out there are getting so much information till now, and hopefully get more information till the end of our show. Okay, moving ahead to our next one, that is, how does H-1B cap affect individuals seeking employment in the US?
Well, that's a very broad question. When you say individuals seeking, there can be individuals who are US citizens, permanent residents. Now, are they affected by this? Yes and no, because there are a lot of H-1B employees working in the United States, not just this year, but from so many years. They're on H-1. Their employers keep filing for their extensions of the H-1B. So if they feel that the H-1B employee suits their needs better than a US citizen or a permanent resident, then yes, it can impact the employment of a US citizen or a permanent resident or somebody who's got a work permit. But if you're asking that question from a perspective of people on other visas, could be an L1, could be a TN, could be something else, then again, unless they apply for the H-1B in the lottery, they're not going to be affected. L1s don't have quotas, so it can be applied throughout the year. TNs don't have quotas, they can apply throughout the year. Somebody is a US citizen, a citizen of Australia, my bad. If they're a citizen of Australia, you can apply for an E3. So it doesn't impact them typically if they're going into any of these other categories, or if somebody has a work permit and they don't need to be concerned with an H1, L1, TN, then it doesn't apply to them. So it only applies to those students who are jumping from an F1 to an H1. And because of the quota limitations, they can be affected. And if they're not picked in the quota, they only have 3 strikes to this lottery. And if not, then they have to look at other alternatives for themselves.
Okay.
I always tell people, if you don't get picked in the H1, don't get disheartened. Maybe you go work for that employer for a year outside the US and come back on an L1. That may be a better chance because you're not subject to the lottery then. You have better opportunities. You can be an L1A as a managerial capacity or L1B in a specialized knowledge. And there is no quota, and it can be filed all year long. So I would definitely advise people to look into those options.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think it's nothing very much restricted to individuals. They have options by which they can get employment in the US.
Absolutely. One has to explore it, and people don't usually. And the best way is for them to consult an attorney to know, hey, what are my options, rather than guessing or going to blogs and guessing. I would definitely tell people, consult an attorney to find out, as an individual, what do you qualify for?
Correct. Yeah, that's really great of you, because many people out there, they just see that if there's no, I mean, cancellation of one chance, then they directly get disheartened. But I hope this shows really help them, and our viewers really find our session fruitful, because Uma is really explaining us very well. Okay, Uma, going ahead with the next question, that is, what is humanitarian parole and under what circumstances can it be granted?
Well, humanitarian parole is something that the USCIS had published, especially for people who are from countries like Afghanistan. They've designated a few countries who are eligible for this, and this is in the public interest that they grant the humanitarian parole. Like, for example, I've just quoted Afghanistan as one of the countries, because the Taliban took over, and they don't have any lawful government over there to provide them with any kind of security. So a lot of people fled to other countries. For example, they've fled to Pakistan, India, they've gone to Qatar, or wherever they could go to protect themselves. So the individuals who are outside the US, they can request for a parole to come into the United States based on urgent humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons. And I've been filing a lot of the humanitarian parole for a lot of people from Afghanistan, because they clearly qualify for this. And, based on these parole requests, they are able to come into the US and live here safely, because they don't have a safe haven in their own country. So it's not going to apply to everybody. It's only to those countries that have been designated by the USCIS. And some of the countries I can name is Afghanistan, the Haitian Family Reunification Parole Program. They have something called as the Cuban Family Reunification Program, Central American Minor Refugee Parole Program, the Filipino World War Veteran Parole Program. There's something called as the Immigrant Military Members Parole Program. So it all depends what the individual qualifies for.
Okay, that's really great. Okay, Uma. Now till here we understood about what is humanitarian parole and its circumstances and all, but how to apply it? I mean, what are the eligibilities and what can be the purpose of humanitarian parole?
Humanitarian parole is for somebody, as I just mentioned, if there is a significant public interest, or countries of people from those countries who've been displaced, don't have a government, or have a lawless situation in their country, and the USCIS has announced that their country falls under the humanitarian parole. Then if they have a family member living in the United States, that family member can petition for their humanitarian parole. Or sometimes they will even allow a non-profit organization to apply for a humanitarian parole. For example, if the Red Cross decides that they want to file a humanitarian parole for somebody from Afghanistan, because that individual doesn't have a single family member here and they have no way of coming here, then the nonprofits can get involved and bring them into the United States. So if they are outside, they can seek this significant humanitarian parole.
Okay. Moving ahead, let's ask for the another question. It's a request from the technical team to please add this question on the screen so that Uma can also see. That is, how does humanitarian parole differ from other forms of immigration relief, such as asylum or refugee status?
Well, parole is saying, I need to come into the United States urgently because my life is at risk. As I said, giving an example, for example, it can be somebody from Croatia. If they feel they're part of the military and they're being attacked by the Russians, They cannot safely live in their country, and they need to immediately come here. The parole is something that they can seek. Asylum could take months or even years to get a asylee status approved. It's not something that somebody would get it immediately. So, it takes time. So one can apply for the parole only if their country has been designated as a country for parole. And parole is something that can be sought urgently as opposed to getting an asylum status approved.
Okay, but Uma, just curious to know that as you have given the example of Afghanistan about this, like what is happening in Bangladesh right now. So just your views on that. That is there any possibility or like how we can relate Bangladesh situation with our humanitarian parole thing?
Well, Bangladesh is right now in a chaotic situation, no doubt about it, but it's not in the exact same situation as Afghanistan. Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban. So clearly, it's not a safe haven for the citizens of Afghanistan. Hence, the US government had declared that country for humanitarian parole. Now, we have to wait and see based on the Amnesty International reports and other reports, if the USCIS is going to determine any kind of humanitarian parole is required for people from Bangladesh. At the moment, they haven't, but that doesn't mean they won't. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, let's wait and see, and let's hope that everybody is safe over there, okay? But Uma, there's one question that I got just now. That is, with Bangladesh ex-prime minister seeking asylum in the UK and facing challenges, so could humanitarian parole offer a viable alternative?
You're asking for the prime minister as an individual if she can qualify for a humanitarian parole. Again, Bangladesh has not been designated as a country for humanitarian parole, so she can't ask for that. But can she ask for asylum, or can she say, I'm a refugee? That's something she can, and it's going to be up to the US government whether they will allow her. I'm sure you've heard of this in the past, that a lot of prime ministers from Pakistan have fled to UK, have fled to Dubai, or they've fled to Yemen, or they've fled to Qatar. So it all depends on that country's rules, if they are willing to give the asylee status or a refugee status for this individual on an urgent basis, because if they feel that this individual could be killed by the mob, and they deserve a chance, that's an individual thing. So yeah, can she apply? Sure, she can. Will she be granted? That depends on the government.
Okay.
But at the moment, she cannot ask for a parole.
Okay, yeah, because humanitarian parole can't be asked sudden, right? So
they can, but that country doesn't qualify.
Okay, so that country will not.
The country has to be, it hasn't been designated by the Biden administration as yet. Afghanistan is. So, as I mentioned, there are some countries which have been designated. One of them is Cuba, one of them is Afghanistan. Unless they're designated, you cannot ask for the humanitarian parole. Now, if the Biden administration decides to do that, that's something they're going to announce, and we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that's a good thing that we are not just understanding the meaning of humanitarian parole, but we are also understanding it with the real case study. I hope viewers out there will get more clarity regarding this topic. Okay, so going ahead with the next topic, that is, how long does... Okay, sorry. Our next question is, what is the application process for humanitarian parole, and how can individuals outside the US can apply?
As I mentioned earlier, Sam, they have to have either a family member filing the petition for them, who are in the US, who could be a US citizen or a permanent resident. They apply for the Form I-131. They also give an affidavit of support that this individual or their family will not become a public charge, that the family is going to take responsibility of their financial responsibility, for example, their medical needs or their food or their living, that they're going to provide them that. So, and then apply for the parole. As I mentioned earlier, also they can reach out to any kind of a nonprofit organization who's willing to file that application on their behalf. And if the nonprofit is willing to bear the financial burden on behalf of the individual or their family. So the application has to be filed, and once the application has gone through, sometimes it takes time, even though this is considered as an urgent, significant public interest humanitarian parole, knowing the situation, there's still some processing time involved. Nothing is going to happen in one day, 1 week, 1 month. If people are imagining that it's going to happen so quickly, no, it's not. But if there is an individual case where, let's say, there was an Afghani politician who was in a high position, and there is a risk that this individual could be killed and they're a target, if they provide all that information, possibly they may expedite that individual's case. Because it's on a case by case, you have to provide all the documentation, and if they feel that, yes, this individual requires some urgent attention, there's a possibility.
Okay, so we can see that there are some kind of exceptional cases can also be there. Okay, Uma, so I just want to say that, as you said, that countries are not designated. Okay. So when a country is not designated for humanitarian parole, then what criteria does the government consider before making such a designation?
Again, it's an individual case, depending on what they state, what is happening to them. Why should the government consider giving them a humanitarian parole? Even though their country is not designated, they'll have to prove the reasons for, getting this parole.
Okay, that's a really different thing that we are getting know. Okay, so let's move ahead to our next topic and let's see what it is. Okay, so what is the purpose for extending humanitarian parole if the urgent need continues? What is the process for extending humanitarian parole if urgent need continues?
You mean to say continuing the parole by the government? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No. If the individual herself, she was already living in that country. So if that person needs to extend their humanitarian parole, then what can be the process for that individual?
Extension will happen only if they've come here on a parole. So there is no word of extension when they're outside the US. They're asking for a parole for the first time to come into the US because they feel there is an urgent humanitarian need for them to come to the US. Now, once they're in the US, if they are granted a humanitarian parole for a year only and they haven't applied for any asylum benefits or anything, then they can ask for an extension of their humanitarian parole. So that applies only to people who are in the US.
Yeah, right. But what if
the word extension doesn't apply to somebody outside?
Okay, that's a different thing. If any person is suffering from some medical injuries and still there can't be any extension regarding that for the medical thing as well?
The word extension doesn't apply to any kind of case. Let's say I'm on an H-1, but I have to be in the US to get an H-1B extension. I'm on an L-1. I need a L-1 extension. I need to be in the US for that.
Yeah, correct.
I can't be outside and asking for an extension. If you're outside the US, you're not in that status anymore. You're living in your country.
Okay, that's really nice. Let's okay move ahead with our next question. That is okay. So we have our very lively chat from one of our guests. That is Edwini Opiami Muhyiddin. I'm so sorry for the pronunciation. Okay, so he's asking, what about for people in Nigeria?
Well, at the moment, there has been no designation for Nigeria requiring any urgent humanitarian paroles. But can they apply? They can surely apply, but will they be granted? It depends on an individual case. Do they qualify for that level of humanitarian parole? Will all depend on their documentation. The best thing would be for them to reach out to an attorney to see, hey, can I qualify for this? And there's also a lot of confusion with people applying for a medical
Yeah.
visa, which is like a B1. If you feel you have a medical condition, let's say I have a client who's got a very rare kind of cancer, and they are from India, or they're from Pakistan, or they're from Sri Lanka. And if they can prove this is such a rare kind of a cancer, and their country does not have any research, they don't have any clinical trials where they can treat this individual, then they can ask for a B1 visa to come into the United States for the medical treatment, be it Houston or be it any other city that provides that specific kind of treatment. Of course, they have to show that they have the financial means to pay for this medical treatment, or they can buy the required insurance to cover their medical treatment, or they have family members who are willing to take the financial responsibility to pay for their medical treatment. So that's a whole different thing. If somebody is saying, I've got a rare heart disease, or I have a rare cancer, or I've got a lupus, which is very rare, it cannot be treated in my country, there is no treatment here, US is the only option, then you come on a B1, not a humanitarian parole.
Okay, yeah, that's a really important thing that people out there should know, because there are like many people are suffering from so many medical issues right there, and there's a lot of possibilities that India or maybe their country is not able to cure their medical
Absolutely.
issues. So yeah, they should know that how they can enter to other country how for curing their medical issues. So
And a
okay.
lot of people are, guessing these things
Yeah.
and going on blogs and guessing, or, they go to Google Uncle and they think Google Uncle is going to help them. But no, please reach out to an attorney to find out, should I be applying for a B1? Should I be applying for a B2? Should I be applying for a humanitarian parole? What does my family member qualify? You need to invest in this before you invest in bringing that family member here, or invest in getting an appointment, because let's say the appointment at a US consulate may cost you $250, $300. You go there and you get denied. One, you lose your money. Two, you are disheartened because you went for the wrong visa.
Right.
So do your homework by reaching out to an attorney to find out, what does my family member qualify. And these days, I do a lot of Zoom calls with people, whether they're in Nigeria, whether they're in South Africa, whether they're in Canada, Dubai, Saudi. It doesn't matter. We can do a Zoom call and talk to the person to find out exactly what are their issues and give them solutions, options, what can they do. So, which is why I insist, invest that very little amount of money to find out. It's like going and doing a blood test. A blood test will tell you what's wrong with you. Similarly, consulting an attorney will give you options. You don't do that, you're wasting your time and money.
No, that's really true. And as Uma said, that just going with Google Uncle, that's of no use. So instead of choosing Google Uncle, I would say that please look for the best attorney, and that best one of the best attorney is sitting in front of me, Uma Mantravadi. So please
Thank you.
contact her, email her, and visit her website for all the clarification. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, for getting updates and everything for the real check. So it's really good. Okay, thank you so much, Edwimi. I hope you got your answer. And let's move ahead with the next question. Okay, so our next question is that, Uma, what can you say that what are some strategic approaches that employers can take to navigate the H-1B cap changes and ensure successful sponsorship for their international employee?
Well, one is first you need an employer in the United States who's willing to sponsor you. Two, if you're applying for the first time, you have to go through the lottery process that is set up by the USCIS, and your employer has to register you for the lottery. Now, what are the chances of getting a lottery? Anybody's guess. I wish I had some technique to tell you all that you would be picked up or you would be picked up. None of us know who's going to be picked up, and only, the lucky ones do get picked up.
Yeah.
And if you don't get picked in the round one, hopefully you're in round two. Hopefully there is a round three and you get picked in that. And as I'm mentioning, H1 is not the only option. You're only looking at H1. Look at other options. Check with your employer if they are a multinational company. When I say that, they don't have to be a Microsoft, or they don't have to be an IBM or an AT&T. They can be a small multinational employer with a parent company in the US, a branch in Nigeria, for example, or a branch in South Africa. And if you're working for the South African branch, they can bring you here on an L1 visa as an intra-company transferee. Now, if you're a Nigerian born, but you're a Canadian citizen, you may qualify for a TN. So that is something you may want to look into. Or if you're a South African born, but you're now an Australian citizen, you may qualify for an E3. So you've got to look into all these options. Let's say you don't have any of these. You may come here as a student on a student visa. You're entitled to a CPT. And once you complete your student, you get, once you graduate, you get an OPT. And if you're a STEM student, you get a STEM OPT for another 2 years. So you get a total of 3 years to work in the United States. So one has to look at options, but if you're only looking at that little box, H1, you're stuck in that. You got to move outside the box, and you may fit into something else. So if you don't know what that something else is, contact an attorney and say, you know what, I've tried. I don't want to try anymore for the H1. What are my options? Can I come here as a student? Can I come here on an L1, an E3, a TN? What can I do? There is even options for people from some countries who can come on an E2 visa, E as in England and the number 2. That is an investor visa. That is a treaty investor. Now, if you invest 80 to 100,000, you don't need an employer. You come here, you open your own business. You can run your business and your spouse will get a work permit. So you look at all these other options too. But if you're looking at only one, H1,
Right.
You're stuck there. Think outside the box, or go to a person who can think outside the box for you.
That's really great. That's not just I would say informational regarding the topic, but it's really, I mean, we all should apply these things in our practical world as well. Okay, so that's really great, and great to know so much about H-1B cap and humanitarian role.
If I may add one sentence, Sam, this is just, I'm just talking generically. This is not something to do with the law or anything. For example, if I have a heart problem, I would have to go to a heart specialist. I won't be going to a gastroenterologist. So you go to the person who knows this, But if I'm going to be guessing and taking Rolaids and Tums, I don't know if I'm messing up my situation further. That's why I shouldn't be handling my own body. I should go to the expert who can tell me what's wrong inside of me. And they can tell me only if they run some tests. Even they can't look at me outwards and say, this is wrong with you. Everyone has to go through a process to find out what are my options. So we go to a doctor because I've got COVID. I go to an infectious disease. I've got, asthma. I go to a pulmonary. So you've got to pick those people who you go to get your answers. I'm not trying to be philosophical here. I'm trying to be practical here when I say this. I just hope people follow this, and I see a lot of people who don't.
That's sad. That's really sad. But we hope that people do get into right track and they do what things are right. Okay, so
and that's what this shows are all about, from Immigration Job Talk Show.
Correct.
Week after week. If we do this, we're only trying to instill and inspire people to be on the right path. That's
Correct.
all.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's really good to have these kinds of words from you because, people are really confused. They need these types of guidance.
Absolutely.
Right. They need it. Doesn't matter how old they are, or doesn't matter how much experience they have, still they make mistakes. And to repeat those mistakes, we are here to have these shows. Just attend, ask questions as much as possible. And now we are going to have a quick break. But before leaving, it's just a request from our viewers to, just send more questions as possible so that Uma can answer those questions.
Absolutely.
And okay, let's contact Uma. For any doubt, that is 713-787-5297. Email her at uma@mantralaw.com and visit her website at www.mantralaw.com. The folks out there, keep asking questions till the time we return. Don't go back, and let's meet after a quick break. Thank you. Keep watching Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Thank you.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for U.S. citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 833-412-8472 or mail us at support@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Okay, so welcome back to each one of you, and I'm your host Sam, and you're watching Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. So Uma, I'll quickly pick up our viewers' question now, and let's answer them one by one. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's pick up our viewers. I hope they have sent us a few questions. Okay. The first question we received from Ashish, that is, I am concerned about the H-1B CAP 2025 selection process. can you explain how the electronic registration system works? And continuing with it, what are the key changes and updates I need to know about the H-1B CAP 2025, and how will they impact my petition?
I'm confused about his question. If he has a petition pending, then why would he be concerned about the selection or the registration process? So it's kind of confusing. Either he's picked up and his employer is processing, or they're not filing for his H-1B. That is the employer's choice. Now, as far as the electronic registration, it's a lottery system, and we don't know how the internal lottery works. It is clearly a lottery. There is no fraud to the system. We have not been notified of any kind of fraud that they have. It's clear it's a lottery. If you're the lucky one, you get picked. If you're picked in first go and your employer files, then you're good. If you're not picked in the first and there is a second, you get a second chance. And if you're not picked in the second and hopefully there's a third, you get a third chance. But if you lose all of them, you just have to wait for next year and hope that your employer refiles for your registration next year. Every year in the month of December, Jan, we get the updates for the registration. If there are any changes, we get notified. So what will happen for next year for 2026 quota, we don't know that yet. But if it's based on the similar, we just have to wait, and your employer has to register you for the lottery. Now, only the lucky ones, whoever they are, we don't know that, get picked. So wish you the best. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, Ashish, thank you so much for the question. And I hope you got your answer. Okay, moving ahead with our next question. Let's see what we got our next question. Okay, so, all right. Okay, I can see there's a huge questions coming on our way. There are a lot of questions we are receiving. Let's see which one to pick. Okay, Uma, so what can you tell about that? People out there, they are getting confused regarding H-1B CAP and H-1B visa. I mean, what are the basic difference between these two terms? Can you please tell our viewers about it?
H-1B CAP means you're applying for the H-1B. Your employer is applying for the H-1B through the lottery process for the first time. That is an H-1B. The word is CAP. It is CAP to a certain quota, which is 65,000. H-1B visa refers to, I'm assuming the word visa means they're referring to when they go to a consulate to get a visa stamping. So those are two different things, which means by then you've already got the H-1B approved and you're going for a visa stamping.
Okay, that's really good. All right. Okay. So, Uma, let's move ahead with the next question. And okay, it's a request from our technical team to please add the question. And here we got, see. Okay, so we got another person from the chat, that is Vishnu Vardhan. Okay, so his question is that I'm currently working in India and I got my H-1B I-797B approved for counselor processing. After a month by chance, if my company laid me off and I did not get my H-1B visa stamped, what are my options?
Your options are, if you have another employer file for your H-1B, it doesn't have to be through the CAP. It is because you've already been processed through a CAP. You've been counted in the CAP, so you don't have to go through the CAP. You have to find a new employer who's willing to sponsor your H-1.
Okay, I hope Vishnu got her answer. Okay, this is the continuation. I have never been to US after my H-1B I-797B approval.
You don't have to. You don't have to. There are a lot of people in similar situations. In fact, lots and lots of employers who file the H1, get the H1B approved, and then they feel that they don't have a project for this individual. So they don't bring them on the H1. So if they don't bring them, they've got an H1 approved, but they cannot come. Now they can seek the help of another employer to file a new H1, and they don't have to go through the CAP, which is the lottery, and come on a new employer's H1. You don't have to be in the US to go through this process. I've done this for several people from India. I've had some Indians who moved away from India to South Africa, or they went to Canada, or they went to Dubai, and then subsequently they found an employer, and we were able to successfully bring that employee on a new H1.
Yeah. Okay, that's really great. I think Vishnu has got cleared with his answers. Thank you, Vishnu, for watching our show and interacting with us. Okay, let's move ahead with the next question from one of our viewers. This is from Ranveer Singh. If I'm not selected in the H-1B CAP 2025, what are my options and next steps? Can I re-register, appeal, or explore alternative visa categories? And what are the pros and cons of each option, considering my long-term career goals and immigration aspirations?
I don't know what status you are, Mr. Ranveer, but the question is, there is no re-registration for the same year. You have to wait and register for the next year. There is no appeal to the registration process, so you cannot appeal because this is a lottery. So you can do that. Now, your goals, you can look into options, as I mentioned earlier. Do you qualify for an L1, or do you qualify for an OPT, a STEM OPT to work on that? Or, you get a PhD and go into the EB1 process if you qualify for that. If you're from India, and get a green card through that. So, I have to individually talk to him to determine what he qualifies for.
Okay, all
So
right.
please reach out to me again. My number is going to be displayed, but I'll give it to you again. It's 713-787-5297.
I hope, Ranveer, you're going to contact Uma for this question and get a clarity for your question as well. She'll guide you really very well. Okay, so let's move ahead to our next viewer's question. That Ailey, okay, has received from YouTube. Can I use the recapture provision to reclaim time spent outside the US while on H-1B status if I re-enter the country on a different visa status, that is F1?
Well, if you're coming on a different status, F1, you're coming on F1. Now, if you again go back to H1 and you have some recapture time that you've spent outside the US during your 6-year period, yes, you can recapture that.
Okay.
But if you're coming on an F1, you're on an F1. You need to complete your F1 before you go back to H1 again.
Okay, and then seek to reinstate my H-1B status. I think you answered that, right?
Yeah, there's no reinstate. You're not reinstating, but you have to find an employer to file your H1. And if you have the H-1B period left, they can, try to get that period left. The amount that is left. It could be 1 month, it could be 3 months, depending on what period was left. Now, if you stay out of the country, out of the US for 1 whole year, then you can come back on a brand new H1 for 6 years. Again, I don't know your whole situation, so I can't give you specific answers.
Okay. So, Ailey, I hope you got your answer. And still in doubt, still in query, contact Uma, as I said earlier and right now as well. Okay, let's move ahead to our next query from our next viewer. Let's see what it is. Okay, it's again from Ailey. How does the Biden administration's immigration policy impact the processing and approval of humanitarian parole applications, especially for individuals with approved H-1B petitions or pending H-1B CAP 2025 applications?
The two have no connection. The humanitarian parole and H1, they have no connection. So I don't know. He's confusing two different issues. Humanitarian parole applies to people whose countries have been designated for a humanitarian parole. If you're already on an H1 with an approved H1, the parole policy has nothing to do with your H1. Now, if the Biden administration passes any rules pertaining to the H1, that's a whole different thing, which they haven't. So there is no changes. So the parole policy has nothing to do with the H1. Totally a confused question.
I hope, Ailey, you got your answer that there need to be a clarification regarding these two terms, that is humanitarian parole and H-1B. So please reach out to Uma or just have a little bit of research regarding these two topics. And rest, we are definitely here to answer your question and clear your doubt. Okay, next we have Divya. I have an approved H-1B petition but can't enter the country due to the cap or other restrictions. How can I use humanitarian parole to enter the US and maintain my status? And what are the key requirements and considerations I need to keep in mind?
If you have an H-1B approved, why would they give you a humanitarian parole? You just have to wait till October to enter the country. And you're in August already, so, mid-August, we're getting there. And just a matter of time, October 1st should be your start date of your H-1B. And once you get your stamping done, you can enter the US. Again, humanitarian parole is only for urgent significant public considerations. So I don't know what your significant public considerations are. Just because you have a lag time between getting your visa and coming here, that's not considered as humanitarian. Again, they are confusing these two issues. You just can't come into the country just because, I have an H1 that is start date of December 1. I want to come now. You can't do that. There are rules to be followed.
Yeah,
if your employers have filed that your H-1B start date is 12/1, the U.S. consulate is not going to give you a visa before that. And the Customs Border Patrol is not going to allow you to come. Just because the word parole is there and the word humanitarian is there, it doesn't apply to everyone.
Correct, yeah, right.
It's like me saying, you know what, I love Switzerland. I just want to go live there for 6 months. Please give me a parole because I love this beautiful country. They're not going to do that. Now, if you have a B1, B2, you have a tourist visa, maybe you can come. If your employer feels you need to come, discuss something, sign contracts, or review some proposals, now you can use that if the CBP allows you to come on that. But if you don't have a visa and you're waiting on your H1, you just have to wait. We discussed this last week, Sam, that even students, they have a restriction. They're given student visas. They cannot come more than 15 days prior to their program. I had one student who reached out to me who came 30 days before. They asked him to go outside the US and come back again, because he was entering too early. So there are rules to be followed. Just because I like to do something, I want to do something, you can't. And when in doubt, reach out to an attorney. When can you come? Talk to your employer. Your employer also may not want you to come very early until your project begins. If your project is beginning December 1st, they want you to come maybe November 30th.
Yeah,
They don't want you to come earlier.
right. They need to be updated regarding these things, right?
Okay, yes. So contact your employer or reach out to me.
Yeah, that's so true, and that's really correct. Like we can see that having this session, still people are a little confused regarding humanitarian parole. I don't know why, but let's see. Let's hope for the best, and hopefully after this session, many people get clarification about humanitarian parole, about our today's topic. Okay, let's move ahead with our next viewer's question. And that we have received from Vikram Reddy, that is received from YouTube. Okay. I'm waiting for H-1B CAP 2025 selection and wondering if I can use humanitarian parole to enter the US for a specific purpose, such as job opportunity, medical treatment, or family reunion. So, what are the potential risks and benefits of this approach, and how can I make it work? Okay.
Well, selection of H1, you just have to wait patiently. If you're not picked, you're not picked. If you're picked, you're the lucky one. Whether it's on the second lottery or a third lottery, if there is one. Now, the word humanitarian parole cannot be abused for a job opportunity. Where is the humanitarian need when it comes to a job opportunity? Everybody wants a job opportunity. Who doesn't? But you don't qualify for that. As I said, you have to have an urgent humanitarian need to come into the United States. Your country, you're having issues. It's a lawless country. There is no government. Your life is in danger. Somebody is attacking you. You've got to show paperwork. If you've got a medical need, they're going to say, okay, show us what your medical need is. Like you have a rarest of the rarest cancer, which you cannot be treated in your country. Then they'll give you a B1, not a humanitarian parole. Family reunion does not qualify for a humanitarian. You get a tourist visa if you qualify. And countries like India, getting a tourist visa, the waiting period just to get an appointment is almost up to 2 years. You've got to wait. So people are trying to jump lines using this word humanitarian parole. It's not going to work. Don't abuse the system.
Yeah, that's really eye-opening.
Do that, you will be denied. And trust me, if you're denied once, the second, the third follow the denials. So don't do that. Talk to an attorney to see, what do I qualify for? It's just like a job. If I'm applying for a job to Immigration Jobs Talk Show, Sam, I'm an attorney.
Right.
But I can't get an IT job, right? Because
Correct.
I don't qualify. I can't apply for a pharmacist job because I don't qualify. I can't apply for an architect's job because I don't qualify. So one has to qualify for that. You don't, you're going to be denied. And trust me, once that credibility is lost for a US consulate, that you're just, abusing the system by just applying anything, they'll keep denying you.
True.
So you don't lose that chances. Just because my neighbor qualified for a humanitarian parole, it doesn't mean I will.
Yeah, true. That needs to be a very specific reason regarding that. Nobody can just as you said, can go because they want to. There's need to be a lot of process, requirements, documentation, I mean, whatnot. So viewers out there, please have a look and have a correct information regarding this topic. Okay, thank you, Vikram, for the question. Now, okay, so Edwimi is asking any news about H-1B visa for second
Well,
result.
the results are already out. Most people have already got their second lottery selections. And if you didn't get it, wait and see for another week or 10 days. If your employer has gotten anything in their USCIS account, and if they haven't, then you just have to wait for either if there will be a third one or maybe the next time, reapply the next year.
Okay, and he's also mentioning that his H-1B visa lottery selection for second result out.
I don't know if he's selected.
Yeah,
or
I'm too confused.
I'm very confused with that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, Edwimi, it's a request to please clarify a bit more because we both are confused from your question or answer. We don't know what it was. Okay, so no worries. We are okay. Now we got one more case study, and hopefully this would be a last question of today's session. So Uma, let me read this case study. My mom's green card application, that was I-130, was approved. She's currently in India. So I filed an I-824 to forward the approval to the NBC for processing at the correct consulate in India, for her biometrics appointment. Despite multiple follow-up requests, I haven't received any updates from USCIS. Continuing.
I don't see why you need to get an I-130 approval notice if you're already in the NVC processing. If NVC has sent you an email to start working with the NVC process, you just need to pay the fees and continue with that. And once the NVC approves her NVC processing, they schedule her for an interview. And at the same time, she'll be scheduled for the biometrics. So the question itself is very confusing. I don't know what exactly this person is doing. All I can say is, ma'am, sir, whoever you are, please reach out to me. If you have an attorney, please reach out to your attorney. If you don't have an attorney, please reach out to me. Send me an email. Go to my website, which is www.mantralaw.com. Send me an email with more clarity, and let me see what I can help you.
Yeah, that's really important because of few questions we are not getting that clarity, but that's okay. That's something we can deal with it. Okay, so till now, let's see. Are there any few questions? Are our viewers waiting for more questions or what? Okay, so we can see the list of questions are huge and people out there are reaching to you, Uma. I think that you are really becoming famous in front of people, they are reaching out and that's
We'll definitely do a second session with this.
true.
We'll do a continuation. And in fact, I wanted to do a session on the very same topic, which is the I-130 and the NVC processing. How does that work? What are the timelines? Just generally, we can go through that. So let's do that with the next session. We'll take up the process next time.
Yeah, because, right, one session is not enough.
No.
Okay, so Uma, there's a continuation with that case study. Okay, let me read it out. Hopefully, you may get a bit clarity regarding that. So it was filed on 6th December 2023. The status was that online case status showed received, but I did not get a mail confirmation. Communication was requested status via email, was directed to reach out to the lockbox email, but received no response question. What steps can I take to expedite this process and get a response from USCIS?
Again, I'm very confused whether he is in the NVC processing or the USCIS processing. I mean, you don't need an approved I-130. If the I-130 is approved, then only it goes to NVC. So I don't know why she is insisting on getting the I-130 approval, which they will get it later. But reach out to me as far as if you need any help with the NVC processing. I do this every day, and I'll be glad to help you. I'm still very, very, very confused with what this individual is trying to do. So please reach out to me. That's all I can tell you at this point.
Okay, I hope that people get a bit clarity of this. And in our next session, hopefully it will happen soon. And people out there, please watch this session again and contact Uma regarding the topic, regarding the queries, so that in the next session you can come up with more exciting questions and better questions, so that we would love to answer. And that's all for Uma today. It was really great having you. I hope I hope you liked the show, as it was my first show today, and I really am very happy. And
congratulations, you did a great job.
Yeah, that's so sweet of you. And I was really excited to have this show with you. And the way I expected, it really came out more than expectation. It's a really good job. It's a good show. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Look forward to many more with you, Sam.
Yeah.
In the future, you've done a great job. Keep up the great job.
Yeah, me too. That's really great of you. Thank you. Okay, folks out there, I hope today's session would be really helpful for you all. And lastly, for more information and for more updates, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Contact Uma again on her number 713-787-5297. Email her at uma@mantralaw.com. Visit her website, mantralaw.com. So that's all, guys. And hopefully you all be happy with today's show. Keep watching Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm Sam, your host. Contact me on sam@higheritpeople.com. Visit our website at www.higheritpeople.com. Thank you so much, folks, for watching our show till the end. See you in the next one, and good luck. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for U.S. citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us on the number 833-412-8472 or mail us at support@higheritpeople.com or visit our website